plant-based for a week is one thing, but what about 20 years? Today's guest made that decision 2 decades ago, and he's here to break down what really changes your body, your mindset, your habits, and your entire lifestyle. If you've ever been curious about plant-based living, this episode is going to open your eyes. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Tracy Mullin, and today we're joined by a familiar face, Tiago Campos. You may know Tiago from his work in mediation and conflict resolution, and he was on an earlier episode with us. But today we're diving into a completely different side of his life, 20 years of living fully plant-based. Wow, that would have been way before it was even sexy to talk about a vegan diet.
Yes, it was, Tracy. Yes, it was.
Okay, so let's, first of all, tell me, what is a vegan?
A vegan essentially is someone who eats only plants, no animal products.
Right.
Now, there are two streams. They're sort of the philosophical approach, meaning that some people choose that lifestyle, if you will, because they don't want to harm animals. And it's mostly about preservation of nature and animals and so on. And then there are people who choose it because of it's a healthier approach to life. And then there are people that are somewhere in between. I guess that would be me. So I'm not philosophically against eating animals,
right,
but I do choose to be vegan for primarily health reasons. But of course, no one wants animal cruelty or anything like that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, tell me then, being a vegan for 20 years, my belief is that people usually start something because they have a big why. Can you tell me, first of all, why vegan?
Yeah.
Why 20 years ago? What happened?
Yeah. For me, it was a health journey that I'd been on. I've been used to spending a lot of time with people in white lab coats, and I was diagnosed with some inflammatory bowel disease at the time. And I learned quickly that there was a traditional orthodox way of dealing with it, and it can have a lot of side effects and involve a lot of surgeries and medications that are really, really tough on the body. And I, as years or months passed, I should say, I learned that there's some perhaps more natural ways of dealing with that, and so slowly, I began to research and read, and I was very motivated because I was feeling very unwell. And eventually, I took the plunge. It was kind of a gradual thing for me. I noticed I made some shifts in that direction, and then immediately things improved. So I haven't looked back since.
Right. Yeah. Well, before we go into all those details, I wore this shirt today because of you. It says love on it. Mm-hmm. And I think we need more love in this world. And we have only known each other a few months, maybe 6 months. But when we met each other, it was like, there was like this real connection. It was not just about, we started talking about conflict and mediation and the right way of handling clients who are separating. We started talking about that. Yeah. But it quickly turned to our love of food. And I am a pescatarian, so I eat seafood and I eat plant-based. Yeah. I am mostly plant-based, and that's how I like to cook. So we had this like passionate, our conversation was like 2 hours long.
Yes.
And we started talking about you as a young boy and everything that you've gone through. So do you want to share a little bit about your first diagnosis and how you were feeling and why you turned to that? And why I wore this shirt is, just to go back to that, is that you just embody love and peace and friendship and kindness. And you were just somebody that I just really gravitated to. And I wanted to get to know you better.
That's so kind. I don't know how to respond exactly to that other than thank you.
Thank you.
So I had a very fortunate, very blessed childhood, but not one without its challenges. And so I actually immigrated to Canada when I was 16. I soon developed symptoms in terms of the digestion and so on. like many people with these kinds of symptoms, you kind of keep them to yourself. You just assume that this is what everybody's like, maybe, and B, it's kind of embarrassing. You don't want to bring it up to a doctor. You don't want to, have anybody poking around in areas that are a little less sightly, if you will.
And you're a man. So let's just say that men are not used to or wanting to go to the doctors as much as women do, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
That is absolutely true. So anyway, it evolved to a point where I was in my late 20s, and it couldn't be denied anymore. I had to, look into it medically. Now, meanwhile, this is a bit of a detour, but I actually was diagnosed with cancer in my early 20s.
Right.
And I'd gone through that, and this other issue was considered sort of a side issue. And so even through that experience, I was told by my doctors that diet had no impact, that in fact I should be eating as much ice cream and chicken wings as I possibly could.
That was the old days. They wouldn't say that now, but that's definitely the old days.
That's exactly true.
Yeah.
And I thought that was strange. That just didn't feel right to me. So even then I began to juice and understand about nutrition. And back then, now it's so popular. Social media is filled with this information. A lot of it is misinformation, but that's another question. Mm-hmm. But it was hard. You had to dig for information. And you also had to trust that these sources that were mostly non-medical at the time, that they were correct. And there was even a lot of misinformation back then. But anyway, my doctors were really impressed at the time with my lymphoma, was the cancer I was dealing with. They were very impressed at the time with how they shortened my treatment, essentially. My body responded extremely well to it all. So that was my first sort of dipping the toe in the water of, is there an alternative way of eating and living life that could, impact your health in a practical, realistic, tangible way?
Well, at that point, you must have been looking for longevity as well.
Of course.
You're a young man with cancer.
Yeah. I wasn't really a drinker. I didn't smoke. I didn't have any kind of what you could see external predispositions to disease or reasons that you could spot. So it was definitely tough at the age of 24 to be told, oh, by the way, you got this, and it's not necessarily a slam dunk of a cancer to deal with. Right.
Well, it's interesting because obviously everybody knows somebody that has cancer or has had cancer, and the first thing that they do turn to is diet. Mm-hmm. They will start juicing, they will start eating better, they will start eating a more vegetarian or vegan lifestyle. Is what my understanding of people in my life that have had cancer. Juicing has been a big thing.
For sure. Those kinds of scares, and my own included, tend to be a very big motivating force to get you to look at different ways of doing things, especially with diet. It's hard to have that willpower when you don't feel that, when there's nothing pressing, nothing forcing you to, drop the cheeseburgers and, I do want to preface, though, everything I'm about to share here today with the fact that I'm not a doctor.
Thank you for saying that, because I was going to make sure we had that clarity here, is that we're not medical professionals and we're not giving advice. We're just talking about your journey to health.
Yeah, I'm not a doctor nor a son of a doctor. I like to say that to the people who ask, or a parent of a doctor.
Yes, I am the parent of a doctor. That's right.
So yes, definitely I do. My only credentials is that I really care about my own health, and I care for the health of other people. I care deeply. That doesn't mean that I can't be wrong or that my knowledge isn't growing. It's always growing. I remain curious about these things, and I try not to be so attached to my ideas that I won't be willing to change them. So I want to mention that. But yes, so that journey began. And then when later on, the issue with the lymphoma was solved, and years later, even though I had carried symptoms all the way throughout my being a teenager and young adulthood, it kind of got worse. And so that's when I really took the plunge gradually and And it's made huge differences. And now the medical field is catching up to things that doctors at the time were telling me not to do.
Right.
And
So
now
can we just go back 1 second? Can you just tell us a little bit, what is actually lymphoma and what kind did you have? Because I know there's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Yeah. So generally, the more treatable type of lymphoma is Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I don't want to, underestimate what the challenge that is for so many people. But what I had was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And at the time, things have evolved since, but at the time it was treatable, but not always. So it wasn't always survivable. And so I had to go through chemotherapy, radiation, and both of those were shortened, those treatments, because of the progress that I made with a combination of what I was doing plus the treatment.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And so then you recover, you're in remission from cancer, and all of a sudden your gut issues that you had, were they still there or they started after?
No, they were still there. They were there before.
Yes.
In fact, I wonder, because lymphoma has to do with the immune system and the lymphatic system, and all of that is linked to the immunity in general. If there's a connection, I'm pretty sure that there was. There's no way to prove it at this point.
Right.
But anyway, so it got worse, progressively worse through my teens and eventually my late 20s. And then it was a choice of either you're going to have to start taking sections of your colon out and have surgeries, which my doctor said this is the next thing we need to do. And that's when I began to seriously consider alternatives, because, having a surgical procedure that's that aggressive is not something that should be taken lightly. So initially, I read some books, and I was looking for answers, and in fact praying for answers, and eventually I came across some information that was really, really insightful and really believable.
Was it a book that you saw? Do you remember what the first thing was that you saw?
Yeah, the first book that opened my eyes towards this was called Self-Healing Crohn's and Colitis by David Klein.
Okay.
And it was a $15 book back in the day, a very small paperback book. And if you read that book and you go to the very end of it, there's testimonials by many, many people with similar conditions to mine, including their children having the conditions, having very significant transformations in their health. So that's what really sold me on at least looking further and more deeply into this.
So were you diagnosed with Crohn's or colitis after the cancer?
Yeah, Crohn's.
Okay, so Crohn's. What is Crohn's?
So Crohn's and colitis are cousins, in the sense that they're very similar. They attack the digestive system. Colitis tends to be more localized. Crohn's can be anywhere from your mouth all the way to your bottom end. It can hit any spot. But essentially the body, the immune system is on high alert, and it detects invaders where they're not, and it attacks your own intestine, in my case, your colon, and it creates damage and bleeding and all kinds of pain. Some people have dozens of bowel movements a day. You get malnourished, you lose weight, all of these kinds of things. So it's very, very tricky, very difficult to deal with. And then there's different stages and different levels of aggression, if you will, of the condition, but there's no cure, and so you have to keep it at bay through if you're going the medical route, which I always suggest at least getting the diagnostics and having a good gastroenterologist, which I do have one, by the way, and I follow up. So I'm not absent of medical care. I do what I do in conjunction with
medical
that.
care.
And by the way, I'm not on any meds. I've never been, actually, I was on some medication initially. And then the doctor, I said, when can I stop taking these? And he said to me, never. Whenever these don't work any longer, we'll just up you to the more aggressive level of drugs, and so on and so forth. And hopefully you run out of life before we run out of drugs or surgeries to give you. That's what I was looking at.
That's a scary answer, right?
It is, yeah.
Do you think they would still give you that information today, or that's just the information you got 20 years ago?
I think to some degree it's still that way. It's the more aggressive your disease is, the more aggressive the drugs. But they've come a long way in 20 years from what I gather, but there's still some very undesirable side effects. And obviously surgeries, removing parts of your colon. You can live a normal life in many ways without parts of your colon, but it's less than ideal. We were designed to have, however length of colon and intestine we have. And so my way of looking at it is we should try to keep it healthy
Keep it
for as long
intact.
as we can. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So
tell me, you started this vegan way of life, mostly for health issues.
Yeah.
And I did mention before, is I think that people, like 20 years is a long time to be that committed you have to have a big why. So I understand now what your big why was. And I kind of have a similar story, not as detailed as yours, but I always had a sore stomach. And I was the exact opposite of you. I couldn't go to the bathroom. So now, since I've been living more of a plant-based life, I definitely, my stomach's not sore like it was before. That's the only thing for me, is I'm not against animals or people eating whatever they want to eat. That's up to them. But it's interesting that we have a why as to why we're doing what we're doing. So tell me, what does a typical day look like for you?
In terms of the diet piece?
Yeah. Because I know we talked about that. I was like, whoa, that's really
so
something.
I follow, my diet has evolved over the years, and I'd like to think that it's still evolving. If tomorrow I learn that I need to add lobster to it, I will. If that's what health means, that's what I'll follow. And I'm saying this not to minimize the plant-based lifestyle, but to say that we should all have an open mind. Sometimes we get into these ruts of, okay, this is what I do, this is my identity. If one day I learn that there's something else I should add or change that doesn't jive with the full vegan, protocol, then I'll do it if it's the right thing, if it benefits me. But
let's just say one thing. I had Dr. Caitlin Dupuy on here a few weeks ago, and she was talking about how our body tells us what's good for us. And when she was talking about how a lady was on a carnivore diet and then her period stopped, and she's like her body told her that this may not be the right way of life for this girl. So your body's also responding and telling you what's good for you, right?
Yeah. And so I would say that I'm really on high alert as far as what the body is saying. I really listen closely, because not doing so usually results in flare-ups or just bad outcomes for me. Most people go through the motions. They may ignore the fact that they're constipated, they're tired, they don't have the energy, all kinds of things that they just consider to be normal. For me, I have such a tight rope to navigate in terms of keeping things in balance, that I've grown to be very attuned with what my body is saying. And
interesting. So let me ask you this. So let's just say you woke up and you were like, you had a day where you were just extra lethargic or tired. That would be like a high alert button for you, like maybe something that I ate, or is it something you're not being as physical? Like, what would you say to yourself if that happened to you?
Most likely it's not happening in isolation. It maybe is on the heels of a few nights of poor sleep. And by the way, I track my sleep with a smart ring, and there's all kinds of wearable technology. And so I know exactly how much REM and deep sleep and light sleep I have, and all of that. So that's one thing. Stress is another one that we tend to, everyone agrees that stress is not good for health.
We all have
it. But we tend to not always do anything about it or much about it. We just think we accept it as part of life. So that's another piece. Another one is diet-wise. You can be vegan and unhealthy, by the way. That's a message that I really want to speak loud and clear.
I call them the lazy vegans. Yes. I don't know what you call them, but that's what I call them.
Yeah, donuts and fries are vegan, okay? If you don't use the animal products in those, so you could eat those all day long, call yourself a vegan, and you'd be very, very unhealthy.
But it's also let's talk about the processed food that a lot of vegans are eating, because so what I know from being around some vegans is it's too much bread, too much pasta, too much processed food. That's also not good for you, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact,
everything in moderation. Don't get me wrong. Everything in moderation.
I'm having to have these discussions on a regular basis, because family and friends and people I'll be at a wedding reception and people look at my plate and wonder why does your plate look different from my plate.
Right.
So every wedding reception that I've been at, Tracy, for the past 20 years, this has become a conversation. So I usually try to strategize, try to be real quiet about it, because I've already had that conversation so many times. This is one thing about that I appreciate this podcast for, is that I'll be able to send people the link. And next time somebody asks me, here's the questions I have for you, instead of spending the next half an hour going through it or more, I can just say, here's a link, have a look, have a listen, and then call me if you have more questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can be unhealthy and still follow fully plant-based. So there's a science to it. And I say to people who ask me for my view, my opinion, that I think eliminating processed food is more, it impacts your health in a positive way more so than going plant-based. Okay,
I agree with that.
That is a much bigger, check mark to get to. And people ask me sometimes, if you didn't have your condition, would you still eat the way I eat? And I would say probably not exactly, but 90%. And I might add, to be honest, when you say you're pescatarian, I grew up with a lot of fresh seafood.
You're from Portugal,
yeah.
right?
My grandmother used to pick up fish that would still have its gill moving when she was taking care of it, getting it ready for lunch or dinner. So that's what I miss the most. That's most likely what I would add. I don't miss meat. I cook meat for my wife and my children.
I was going to ask about your family. How do they eat, right?
Yeah. So they eat an excellent diet. My wife is wonderful because she's a healthy girl, but she has over the years just adapted her diet where it's so healthy, yet she doesn't have the pressure of a condition that she's trying to manage. And so she's very much 90% vegan, eats a lot of foods, and she counts her macros and all of these different things. So yeah, my boys eat meat and fish, and in fact, I enjoy having some exotic meals for them that I'm not able to eat, but I want them to have those experiences. But we do not call those health foods. We call them food. We call them tasty. So my home is healthier, I think, by function of me having the lifestyle that I have, but I certainly don't impose it on them, and I want them to enjoy the different foods that I'm not able to enjoy, but just in a balanced way. Right. So we don't have meat every day, or they don't. They don't have a lot of processed foods, we have a good balance going. Yeah.
That's good. And you must do the barbecuing for them, do you?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
So you're not opposed to that?
I make a mean ribeye steak that I'm very proud of, with some garlic and some butter, and I would never be able to eat it. And it smells good to me, but I'm not tempted. It's been too long. I'm not. I'm happy to do it.
It's interesting because some people will say to me, like my mother-in-law will say, "Are you guys still on that diet?" So it's not a diet. It is a lifestyle. Would you agree with that? It's a lifestyle. It's how we've chosen to live. And I enjoy living. Like, I was a terrible cook. And when my kids were growing up, I was a terrible cook. I actually think I'm becoming a way better cook.
Yeah.
And I'm very fascinated by recipes. And, I have the New York Times subscription because I want to see all of the great recipes.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that has changed, is that I don't eat any processed food. But when they were growing up, it was like sausages and Kraft dinner. And like, that's how I cook, because that's all I knew.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And even my son-in-law, he will be like, "Oh, well, where's the meat?" It's always a big joke, like, where's the meat?
Right.
Because when they come to my house, they eat the way that I do. I don't impose it. They can certainly come to the cottage and make their own hamburger if they want to, anything like that. But if they're in my home and we're going to have either vegetarian or seafood, that's what we're having.
Yeah. That's called a SAD diet, Standard American Diet.
Yes.
SAD.
Yeah.
And that's what most people grow up on, and that's all they know. And they think meat and potatoes, this is what a healthy meal is. And it can be, I think, part of a healthy overall diet, but those can't be your staples. I think that we now know that there are better ways of having a lifestyle, because diets, they're always temporary. Tracy, they don't last. Stopgap kind of solutions. So for me, what I do is I follow this thing called a raw till 4 diet.
Okay. Yes, let's get back to your typical day, because we started to talk about that. So raw till 4?
Yeah, raw till 4 means for me primarily sweet fruits until dinner time, which most people are blown away by.
People are
It's
like, whoa,
how
what?
can you do that?
They always say don't eat fruit. It's too much sugar.
Too much sugar, of course. Yeah, too much
Right.
sugar. My doctor is extremely happy with
The outcome.
my insulin sensitivity is really, really excellent. I just heard a couple of months ago that it's been the best blood work that he's seen in this year. So the thing with sugar and diabetes and the sugar source is really key to understand that there are different components. There's a balance between the fat that is consumed. Our cells have these receptors for insulin, and if we have a high-fat diet, those receptors tend to be clogged. And I'm sure your daughter or a doctor, an actual doctor, not me, would be able to explain these concepts in more depth. But the idea is that we believe that it's a simple thing, which is the more sugar you eat, the more at risk for diabetes you are, and this is just not correct. It's what is your overall diet? What is your level of physical activity? What is your genetic predisposition as well? Your BMI, all kinds of factors. Do you eat late at night? Do you all kinds of things. People, I like to say that people eat the wrong things at the wrong time, in the wrong way, for the wrong reasons.
In the wrong order.
In the wrong order, in the wrong combination.
Yeah.
So for me, what works, and it's not the only thing that works, so I'm not advocating that this is the only way to be healthy in the world. There are different ways, different paths.
But this
works really well.
Yeah. Okay.
And so raw till 4 is sweet fruits. And by the way, you have to transition to this. You cannot start tomorrow. You have to slowly...
That's going to happen, right? Somebody's going to listen to the podcast and go, I'm just going to eat fruit tomorrow.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it may or may not
work for them.
Be comfortable for you the first time around, because you need to... Your gut, bacteria has to adjust and adapt and all of that. And it's a gradual thing. But so sweet fruits in the morning, starting with... first warm water. I drink about 750 ml of warm water to start the day.
Anything in the water, lemon or anything?
Some people say lemon. For me, sometimes, but I don't insist on the lemon. Just warm water seems to work. Filtered water, try to keep that chlorine out. Leave water out, and the chlorine, I think, evaporates. That's what I've been told. One of the things you're going to hear me say today is my understanding. So my understanding of things, meaning here's your disclaimer that this information you should check. If you're going to follow this, you should check it.
Now, there's a book called Raw Till 4, is there not? Or
there probably is.
Yes, I think there is a book. So if people wanted more information, they could go to that book. And I'm not sure if it's by a medical doctor or not, but there is a book, I believe.
So the idea is plant-based all the way. Raw till 4, and then after that, a vegan meal.
So let's just go back 1 second. So because when we met, we were I was having a coffee, you were having tea. You explained to me that your fruit bowl in the morning would look like a fruit bowl that was for somebody's brunch, for a family.
Yeah,
that's how much fruit you're eating.
That's right.
Okay, so just tell us how much fruit and what kind of fruit are you eating?
So I will eat 1,000 to 1,500 calories of fruit every day. So that's about half of my daily calorie, amount.
Okay.
That's a significant amount, and most of those calories are coming from carbohydrates. So most of fruits and many vegetables have an 80-10-10 breakdown of 80% carbohydrates. Calories coming from carbohydrates. 10% fat and 10% protein.
Okay.
So a banana, for example, is about 80% carbohydrates, about 10% fat. Bananas do have some fat, perhaps a little, maybe 7%, and also protein. One banana has about 1 gram of protein, which is about between 5 and 10% of its calories.
Right.
So that golden ratio of 80-10-10 is excellent for healing. For healing many different conditions. There's people with MS that follow this. There's people with many different autoimmune conditions that follow this ratio. Most people, and what social media will tell you, is that having 80% of your calories come from carbohydrates is a recipe for disaster.
Right.
You're gonna gain weight.
Yeah, you're gonna get fat.
You're gonna be diabetic. You're gonna have insulin, spikes up the wazoo. And it's just not so if you keep your fat content down. But the most of the population eats between 30 and 45% calories from fat.
So you're saying like you couldn't eat raw till 4 and then go and have a Big Mac and fries, and that's not going to work. Bad idea. Okay.
Because again, you're going to oversaturate your body with these kinds of things that it's going to try to process, and fat is extremely energy dense, and again, it clogs up those insulin receptors in your cells, which means that your body is pumping out insulin, and the cells are just not receiving that. So it just pumps it more and more and more, and that's where the issue, that sort of death spiral starts. But if you, like many athletes, and by the way, there are many plant-based, entirely vegan athletes, many Olympic gold medal winners, and even plant-based. There's cyclists, and triathlon athletes that are on the raw till 4 diet. So it works really well, but you need to know what you're doing. So the idea is I start with acidic fruits. They absorb the fastest. I do a little bit of food combining, meaning that I try to separate my acidic fruits from the semi-acid from the sweet fruits. But the sweet fruits is what has most calories. So most of the challenge for plant-based people, and in fact, people that have talked to me and say, I tried it, it didn't work. I was anemic and I was weak. And what's happening is that they're replacing a plate that used to have a steak and some potatoes and salad with just the potatoes and the salad.
Right.
And okay, so where are you getting your protein and the extra 400 or 500 calories of that steak? Mostly the calories. So when you are entirely plant-based, and especially if you're 80-10-10 or raw till 4, your challenge is not to minimize your eating or minimize your calories like most people. Your challenge is, how can I get to the end of the day having eaten, in my case, 2,500 to 3,000 calories. I'm quite active, so that's typically my calorie amount per day. So you have to actually be intentional not to cut your calories, which is counterintuitive to most of society. You have to be intentional to make sure, am I getting enough? Because if I get to dinner time and I've had 0 calories or very little, or I've had a couple of salads, let's say 300 calories, now how am I going to make up 2,500, 3,000 calories in a plant-based, low-fat dinner?
Right. Very
hard. So, for example, I will have an extremely large bowl of blueberries and cherries and some grapes. I can blend it. And by the way, this is kind of getting deeper than we perhaps need to here today, but when you blend food, it does destroy some of the fiber. It does make the absorption quicker, potentially that insulin spike quicker. So you need to be aware of these things as you do them. It doesn't mean you can't do it, but you have to be aware of that. So I'll have a very large bowl of these things.
So do you separate them as you're eating them, or you just eat them all together? It's all together.
Because they all fall under that kind of semi-sweet kind of area.
Right.
Okay.
If I'm going to have big bowl, you said it's a big bowl.
Big bowl. Like big bowl. Like you again, a family of 4 would typically share that and be like, "Wow, I had a lot of blueberries this morning." So we're talking about 500 calories of these things.
Okay.
So blueberries are low calorie. Grapes are a little bit higher calorie, but 500 calories of that. Then for lunch. And by the way, I'm very active. I do about 10,000 steps a day. I work out, do all kinds of resistance training 3-4 times a week. I play soccer with my sons, and so this you need to have a source of burning these calories as well.
Right.
Okay, your body needs that. That's part of your health protocol, or mine anyway. So so at lunchtime, I'll have a smoothie with just sweet fruits. It could be mangoes, it could be bananas, dates, prunes, anything that's sweet. And this smoothie will be about 1,000 calories.
Okay.
I will add some spices that are known to be benefit the immune system.
Like a turmeric and...
Yeah. I actually do raw turmeric with all my smoothies. And I will add some flaxseed powder, which has some omega-3s. So another thing you need to be intentional about when you're plant-based is your omega-3 intake, because that's easy to find in fish, easy to find in eggs and meat and some other sources, which if you're eliminating those sources, then there are certain things. In fact, we should probably discuss at some point what are the nutrients we should be paying attention if you choose a plant-based lifestyle, because you need to be intentional about those as well. So anyway, I've had my lots of grapes and berries in the morning. I've been active. I've had my then large smoothie. I'm talking about 1.5 liters.
That's a big smoothie.
Yeah. So most people who are plant-based have a larger stomach that they develop because the volume of food is much higher. If you have a piece of steak, that's 500 calories. That's this big. If you want to have 500 calories of beans and potatoes and mushrooms, that's a plate this big. So my plates of food are shocking to a lot of people. My family is used to it, but yeah. So you're never hungry, and you're never feeling like you have an empty stomach. So by then I've had 1,500 calories. Now I can spread that out if I want. I can eat the bananas instead of having the smoothie or the mangoes. But I'm very, very satisfied. My body and my mind have learned to see that food as food. Most people see a banana or a mango or some berries as a garnish or a side dish or a dessert perhaps, something that augments their meal but not a true meal. And so they might feel sorry for somebody like me. It's like, well, you're not really truly satisfied. You haven't had anything of substance. Well, trust me, when you're having that level of sweet treat, of that level of fruit, you crave that, and you are fully satisfied with that. I don't have any cravings for other foods.
I think we poor women have been conditioned that it's too much sugar. It's going to make us bigger. It's going to cause weight gain. We've been conditioned to feel like fruit is a no-no.
Yeah. If you look at, I'm not too concerned. I'm in good shape, but I'm not too concerned with the I'm more concerned with my health than the external of it. But if you look up fruitarian people, they have not 6-packs, they have 8-packs. They're ripped. They're ripped. They've got under 10% body fat, which I do as well. They have, they're in extremely good condition. So no, that happens when the rest of your diet, other than the fruit, is not good, and the fruit gets blamed. That's the part that I don't quite understand.
Right.
It's like, so you're not blaming the Big Mac and the fries and all the sauces and the oils and the sugar and the salt and all of these different things that tend us to get us to eat more of the wrong kinds of food. You're blaming the foods that God made and put on this planet to make us healthy and subsist on. I find that interesting. So yes, can there be too much sugar in somebody's diet? Of course. But in my view, it's not the sugar. It's the processed foods. So I don't eat any processed sugar, by the way.
Right.
I don't eat any pastries. I eat very little bread, and usually whole wheat or Ezekiel bread, which is sprouted grain bread, which has 4 grams of protein per slice. By the way, I hit about 80 to 100 grams of protein consumption per day. Most people also wonder about that.
Well, the big myth in vegan lifestyle is that you don't get enough protein. So can you just give me a couple of ideas? Let's talk about your dinner.
Yeah.
Well, so first of all, what about your snack in the afternoon? Do you have a snack? Or you just go from lunch to dinner?
It would be more fruit. If I'm hungry,
Okay.
It would be more fruit. But what I like to do is, first of all, I do intermittent fasting. So I don't eat after 5:30, 6 p.m. Until about 10 a.m. the next day. So that's a lot of hours, a lot of letting your body, first of all, your body is working hard digesting food. There's now studies that say that if you actually eat a subcaloric diet, meaning less calories slightly, I'm talking about 100 or 200 calories less than what your daily recommended amount is, you will extend your lifespan, because it's just less wear and tear on the body. We eat too much as a culture.
Oh, we do. Okay? We definitely do.
And so too many dense foods make it easier for us to eat too much. So you can eat the volume, but keep your calories in check. Right, so protein is the darling of our day.
It is. Let's talk about
everything,
protein.
all of the bars and all of the yogurts and all of the drinks. It's how can we pack more protein? Because fat has this idea of fat is fat. It makes people fat. It's greasy. It's all of these sort of connotations attached to it. And sugar, we all know that carbs have, ever since Dr. Atkins, back a few decades ago, told us that sugar is the cause of all evil, then we know that carbs are bad. But the fact is that we eat too much protein as a culture. This is at least the science that I'm reading, and again, I'm not a doctor. This is my understanding of things. I'm going to say that again. Tells us that we, if anything, eat too much protein. But of course, we do have protein requirements. Usually, my understanding, there are people out there espousing much larger, greater numbers than these, but I think 1 gram, 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight is more than sufficient. If you're an athlete, you can up that a little bit. But there are people out there talking about 2 grams or a gram per pound. There's negative impacts that protein has on the liver, on the kidneys, and there's also actual cancers that are linked to too much protein consumption. So I would just encourage anyone to not buy into the hype, the protein hype, that you must pack protein into every single meal. And there are many very well-spoken people on social media espousing this.
Is there anybody that you would recommend that they follow or like?
I would say that follow the money, meaning that usually when somebody is telling you good news about bad habits, so there's this idea that people love, especially on social media, to receive good news about their bad habits. So whenever you see somebody saying, eat all the butter you want, I'm a doctor and I eat a pound of butter a day and I'm super healthy.
Buy my special butter.
We love that idea, right? But people are often doing it for clicks. They're often doing it for clout. They're often doing it for the shock value, but the science doesn't bear that out. Mm-hmm. And then to complicate matters, Tracy, sometimes there's science out there that is funded by certain lobbies that is done to present a facet of a picture to say, let me pick on butter and dairy, for example, which are not health foods. They were removed from the World Health Organization as health foods, by the way. And they were removed at some point from the food pyramid and then put back in. But again, this is more of an economic or commercial interest. But there are studies, for example, there's one in France, I believe, that says that dairy is healthy because they can track the health of these people that consume dairy. But then upon a closer look, they noticed that they were comparing very wealthy people who have all kinds of other medical interventions as well as a much healthier diet to people who don't have the economic ability to buy themselves or to rely on the health practices of the wealthy. So there was a correlation, not a causation, between dairy consumption and health that sometimes the dairy industry will capitalize on these studies. But the overall picture is, by and large, dairy is not a health food. Although we've all seen the ads from back in the 90s of the milk mustache and athletes. And so there's a lot of money spent on these things. And I don't want to upset anybody. Enjoy your milk, by all means. One of my sons...
Don't call us.
One of my sons still drinks milk. So I am not so... I just don't call it a health food. If you want to have something that you want to enjoy, I drove here today and there's pollution on the roads and we're consuming that. Not every area of our life can be 100% healthy, right? But we should also aim for accuracy, right? And for truth. So anyway, I don't want to get too off on a tangent on these things, but the idea is that protein is a darling of our culture, and I would just encourage everybody to look into that, but look at the studies. So to answer your question, look up Dr. Greger, Greger, I believe, Dr. Greger. And the reason I linked that with Follow the Money is because Dr. Greger is part of an organization that is, as far as I can tell, just focused on the facts, on gathering scientific data and presenting it to us in a way that we layman, non-doctor types can receive and understand and follow. And he's not shy with correcting himself if new science shows something else. There is no, everything is by donation. There's no financial interest. He's not trying to sell you products or anything like that. He conducts he runs an organization that is nonprofit, and there's different degrees of nonprofits, but he is what I would call somebody that's been trustworthy so far. There's others out there, but I would start there. There's lots of noise, lots of people that are making a lot of money on social media, telling people to do all kinds of things that I believe to be long-term harmful. But I will say this. I want to say this. This is the main thing that I want to stress. Whatever you find that works for you, you do that. So if that happens to be all meat, full animal products. I believe that those diets work in the short term because you're eliminating processed foods, and by eliminating processed foods, I think, in my opinion, limiting the more harmful things that we eat today.
Right. You're making yourself feel better already.
Exactly.
Just because you're not eating processed food.
Yeah. But ultimately, long term, I don't believe that meat eating, diets are sustainable. And I think that they're costly. And I think some science bears that out.
Right. What if people just ate less of meat? Mm-hmm. Let's just say they wanted to improve their lifestyle. They wanted to improve their gut health.
Yes.
Eating less meat, eating more plant-based.
Yeah.
It's just a good way to start.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what my family does, my immediate family. That's what I do with my kids, with my boys. I think enjoy your meat, but reduce it. This science has been out for a long time. Everybody's been told since I was a kid that a proper size of a piece of steak should be the size of the palm of your hand. But we keep on going to restaurants and getting these big 16-ounce. 16
the baseball
steaks,
one,
right?
The baseball one,
right.
At the keg, I think it is.
They're tasty, but are they health food? And no. So reduction of animal products would for sure, in my opinion, increase your lifespan and make you healthier. But above all, the elimination of processed foods, anything you can't pronounce.
Let's give them a couple of ideas of protein that they can eat that is plant-based.
Yeah.
Besides vegetables and fruit, because...
So let me see if I get this correct. I don't want to, because this will definitely invite a lot of negative reaction if I'm not accurate. I believe that per calorie, there's more protein in broccoli than there is in steak.
I've heard that.
Okay. Now, this is a bit of a trick statement in the sense that it's, to eat 500 calories of broccoli, it's not sustainable because broccoli is very low calorie. But the point I'm trying to make is not to trade your steak for broccoli one for one. It's that every plant has all the amino acid, not all, but it has amino acids and protein that your body then uses to build a complete protein. Okay, first of all, the myth that we need to have a full complete protein at every meal or every time we eat protein or the body won't know to use it is exactly that. It's a myth. So you can eat different amino acids, and like I said, a banana has 1 gram of protein. All fruits have some protein. All plants have protein.
Right.
Okay, so that's one thing. Now, does lettuce have enough protein for you to get by? No. Lettuce has very little of nutrients, period. Beans, rice, nuts, soy is a complete protein. Quinoa is a complete protein. Mushrooms have protein. Potatoes have some protein.
Lentils, chickpeas.
Chickpeas.
Not in the can, though, right?
Ideally not. If you can soak, of course you've
them
got
and cook them yourself. Yeah,
exactly.
They're a pain in the butt to do, but it tastes so much better.
Yeah, and try to eat organic. There's this chemical that is in most of our food nowadays called glyphosate. It's known commercially as Roundup. It's harmful to bacteria in the gut.
Now, is it in our canned food?
It can be if it's not organic.
Okay.
And there's some contamination even with organic foods, but it is reduced based on some of the testing that I've seen. Also, canned food can have some other things like BPAs in the lining of the cans. And so it can be trouble that way. But it's better than nothing. I think that a can of organic chickpeas is better than a steak health-wise. But ideally, you'll have neither. You'll have the soaked chickpeas. But you need to sort of think ahead 24 to 36 hours to soak them. Otherwise, it'll be harder. You need a pressure cooker to get them to a soft, consistency. Mm. So those things have protein. And if you eat the proper volumes, remember, Tracy, I said earlier, if you're plant-based, you have to eat a lot of food, especially if you're low-fat, because you can be plant-based, but if you're doing a lot of olive oil, if you're doing a lot of hummus, and I do hummus and I do baba ganoush and some of these things, those are okay, but be aware of the amount of fat that they contain. Mm-hmm. And again, if you don't have a bowel condition, you may be able to have a higher fat diet. In fact, most people are. For me, the proper balance is about 10 to 15% of my calories coming from fat, which then means that I need to eat more carbohydrates to satisfy the energy needs of my body. And so that balance that's the happy place for me. But most people would do well by just eliminating processed foods, increase, have lots of beans with every meal, as many meals. My wife even does beans with breakfast because she knows that beans with every meal are one of the 12 staples of health and longevity. So she's very disciplined that way. But yeah, the idea is that you have these foods and then you enjoy it. So I have Indian food as long as it doesn't have the dairy. So you have to pick and choose. Chinese or other Asian dishes that, again, don't have dairy. I can have all of those that don't have the meat.
But it's not probably very often that you're eating out anyways.
No,
like you're not doing takeout that often. No.
Very
you
rare.
Can't.
It's very rare. I can do the Mediterranean buffet. I can go to Mandarin and pick and choose certain things. I know I'm going to get more of the oils that I'm not supposed to. But you can still do some things in the salad bar and have some of the potatoes and some of the mushrooms and rice and so on. But if I go out, I consider that to be a treat, an exception. Usually the issue is more the fats and because it's easy to avoid the meat and the animal products. It's usually that, restaurants want to please people. They want to bring them back. And people love, salt, fat, sugar, and so yeah, so those are the things that you're kind of compromising at that point,
right?
With
So can you give me an example of what a really quick dinner would look like for you, just to give us some ideas?
Sure. So for me, when I say mushrooms and beans, there are dozens of varieties of both of those. So don't think of just your button mushrooms or your red kidney beans.
Right.
There's dozens. So,
portobello mushrooms and oyster mushrooms.
Of course.
And you're making a mixture of things.
Yes, yeah. Lion's mane. There's all kinds. Shiitake are very healthy. So mushrooms should be cooked, first of all. I do raw till 4, but one thing is mushrooms have some substances in them that are challenging for digestion. So a typical meal could be sweet potatoes and regular potatoes, some hummus or baba ganoush, which I can make myself. I can steam some, bok choy and some broccoli, maybe shred some cabbage and have some of that in there. I'll have some combination of different beans. I could have a slice of Ezekiel bread. I could have some nuts afterwards. That would be quick. I could make that within 20 minutes. It does require an adjustment. Many people see all of the things that I just mentioned as side dishes, right? They're like, okay, but where's the main?
Yeah.
So for the plant-based eater, these things become the main. You just eat a lot more of them. Right. And I mean a lot more.
Well, I remember going to a doctor once regarding my stomach, and, she said to me, well, how much broccoli would you eat at a sitting? And when she told me, no, you need to eat like this much broccoli, I was like, what? Like as a kid, you just took a little portion like this, right?
That's right.
So definitely I'm eating
more. It's not
more.
A decoration on the plate.
No. Yeah.
It is food, right?
Yeah.
So those quantities are different. But basically any vegetable, any legume under the sun, grains, I would avoid white bread, and I would avoid processed bread. If you look at the ingredients in your bread and there's more than 3 or 4, I would not eat that.
Right.
Bread is made primarily to be shelf stable nowadays, to last, nice and soft. That doesn't happen naturally. If you remember from your childhood, bread would get hard within a day or 2, sitting out. So be cautious of those things that are still plant-based, but not health food.
Well, I feel like there's a turning point. Like I feel like, 20 years ago when you started your vegan diet, that was not normal for that time.
No.
Now there's so much more conversation about our health and our food and our longevity. Yeah. And, I feel like people are coming back to the table with making more of their own food and better quality foods. Now, a lot of people will say to me, well, I can't afford to eat that way. I can't afford to eat as a vegetarian because everything's, super expensive. Tell me, what do you say about that?
It's an even trade. So a ribeye steak, if you get a good one, is $28.
I don't even know how they can afford that. I think we're saving money.
So I'll tell you, $28 worth of beans and high-end mushrooms and the best vegetables you can get goes a long way. So it depends on what you're trading it for. But yes, if you're eating cheap processed food,
It's expensive.
and then you want to upgrade to plant-based, healthy, organic food, it's going to be more money. But if you're trading, you know, meat and fish, quality meat and fish for plant-based, it's not going to cost you more money.
No. And I never waste anything. Like if it's been in the fridge too long, or at that point where it's been too long, I throw it in the freezer.
Yeah.
I'll put it in a shake, or I'll, throw it in like my spinach. My spinach never goes in the garbage.
Yeah.
Like I'll put it in the freezer and throw it into something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the tricky thing too for a plant-based eater. And because my wife is almost entirely plant-based, and my children are eat very healthy as well, is it's tricky to do fridge management, as I call it, because the amount of raw, unprocessed food is so large that we have no space. We have to go grocery shopping several times a week. Because processed food is dense, and it comes in packages that you can keep outside the fridge. Most of the healthy things that you have to eat have to be refrigerated, and they're large volume for the calories that they have. So if you're having a couple of cabbages in your fridge, and large amounts of broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and so on, so our freezer and fridge are constantly packed with these foods, and they go quick because the volume of them that we eat is quite large. So that's another thing, another consideration, a bit of a side effect, but it's worthwhile in my view. So you can definitely, absolutely meet your protein needs with a plant-based diet. It does require a little bit of planning, but you absolutely can. And like I said, the carbohydrates are a natural consequence, and the fats as well: olive oil, olives, nuts, and again, all vegetables and fruits do have some fat in them. But I want to talk about vitamin B12.
Okay.
So vitamin B12 occurs naturally in soil, as a byproduct of bacteria in the soil, from animals, essentially, doing their deeds.
Manure.
Exactly.
We
manure.
can say poop here.
Yeah, and so that symbiosis between the manure and bacteria produces vitamin B12. So in the old days, we would be able to have sufficient B12 needs met by just eating off the land. But now we have land that's agriculturally, commercially, produced, and is very shallow in these things. And plus, everything is ultra washed. Heads of lettuce and tomatoes in the grocery store look like picture perfect. This is not the way that our grandparents experienced these same things. And so B12 has to be supplemented nowadays, because while it is in meat, by the way, cows get it from the land, same as us. Right. So it's not like, they have to get it in order to give it to us through their meat, and they get it from the land, but they're not washing what they eat.
Right.
And so they get that source of B12. So the reality, though, is that most meat eaters are actually short on B12 anyway. So everybody should be supplementing. I'm not a doctor. Please see a doctor. Please have a blood test. So don't let me diagnose or prescribe. But my understanding is that we should all be, so a vegan person, by all means, for sure, needs to, have B12 supplementation. So I would recommend that. Zinc is possible, but harder to get in a plant-based diet. It is in some grains and some legumes, but you have to be intentional. So I would say it's not harmful to get your 25 or 30 micrograms of zinc per day as well. So I do that. Magnesium, if you're eating the amount of bananas that I eat, not a big issue, but most people tend to be short on magnesium. Most omnivores and meat eaters are as well, so consider supplementation there as well. And then omega-3s. So for somebody that's vegan that wants to be intentionally staying away from fish oil, they can do flax seed. Sprouted flax seed is the most bioavailable. And so that's important because, again, it's kind of easy to get omega-3s with animal foods, a little bit more intentional. There is some science now that says that fish oil is not necessary for vegans because it tends to be the most easily absorbable form of omega-3. But there's some science now that says that when people do not consume animal omega-3, their bodies develop the ability to extract more from less. Okay, so just putting that out there, that's the latest that I've heard. But yes, flax seeds have and flaxseed oil will also have the omega-3s that you need, and I would supplement that as well. Let me see if I left anything out. I don't think so.
I just want to say I just love your commitment to your big why, which is like staying healthy, longevity. I don't have a deep understanding of how to track my calories or how to what my nutrients are. I don't have a deep understanding of that, but you've given me something to kind of think about today. Is like maybe I need to make sure that I'm also getting my B12 and my omega-3s and doing my supplements as well. So.
Yeah. And I would like to say that in this whole health and wellness sphere or space, especially in social media, the algorithm, as soon as you begin to follow or click on some of these things, then you get flooded with it. But it almost gives us the impression that we can prevent our ultimate demise. We can't. We
can't do that.
We can delay it. We can make sure that we live as healthy a life as we possibly can while we're still here. But we're here for a good time, not a long time, as the song says, meaning that at some point, we are going to perish. We're going to leave this world. I don't want to darken too much the mood, but I like to be realistic about that reality, and that what we're trying to do is take care of what we've been given. But make peace with your Creator, because one day you're going to meet Him, so to speak. So what we do here can improve our experience. It can improve our health. It can extend our life. Yes, it can heal disease. Absolutely, it can. But ultimately, that's all we're trying to do. We're not. There's somebody out there in the health space that's tagline is "Don't die," and they feel that they're the first generation to possibly not die ever through their health, actions, I guess. But I don't buy into that. I think that the idea is our bodies are slowly getting older. I don't know if you notice extra, sagginess or wrinkles. I do when I look at myself a little. And so some of that is just impossible to prevent. It's just the way that things are.
Well, it's starting to be like a little bit more, grateful for, where we are, or our health, or just our body and how it feels, and making sure that we're strong. All of those things as we're going into, like, I'm in my late 50s now. So it's a matter of, like, I want to be strong, and I want to I want my joints to listen to my body, and I want to be, free to get down on the floor and play with the kids, and, all of that.
Yes.
Play pickleball and do all of the things people in my age group do.
Yeah. There's a study that says that people tend to spend the last 15 years of their life ill or in a diseased state. And all that, I think that this, one of the things this accomplishes, this, a closer attention to your the way you eat and the way you live, is we want to reduce that time. We want to make sure that we are, we spend time in illness and disease for as short a time in our lifespan as possible, so that we're not spending the last quarter or 1/5 or 1/6 of our life, in a condition where we can't play with grandkids, we can't experience and enjoy the pleasures of life. So making decisions now, even in our 40s and 50s, is key to make sure that we get there. So,
well, I can't believe how many of my clients that are in their retirement years, and they'll say to me, retirement sucks. All I've done is be sick since I've been here. And it's a matter of, I just want to have fun, right?
Yes,
so I want to enjoy and have fun. And as I mentioned, my journey with my health has come through, just always having a sore stomach. So maybe it's not for everybody, but it certainly worked for me.
Yeah.
I've been pescatarian since 2018.
Yeah.
So it's a commitment for me. It's a lifestyle change.
Yes.
And my fiance eats the exact same way as I do. And when I met him, that's how he ate.
Okay.
He has a cholesterol issue with it, producing too much cholesterol.
Right.
And his children also eat the way he eats because he had a heart attack at 49. So at 49, you're a young man and have this cholesterol predisposition, and his, some of his family member has it as well. So he was kind of forced in the same lane as you are. It's like, I want to have a healthier life. What does it look like? And like I said, it's certainly easier to find everything that you need online. And I guess when you're looking online, just look for people that are not selling something, that are just providing value, right?
Yeah.
So,
and if what they're saying sounds too good to be true, then look deeper into it. Try to find non-commercial sources of that information or an alternative opinion.
well, you just have to go on ChatGPT now and say, hey, is this true? And it will tell you that that's misinformation. So it's pretty easy now to kind of get your information at least going in the same lane, right?
That's right. Yeah. ChatGPT is, I would say, any AI tool is over 90% accurate.
Yeah.
But also it relies on some sources that sometimes may not be accurate sources as well. But I would agree with you, Tracy, by and large, double checking with ChatGPT will do away with those myths.
Right. And I'll ask ChatGPT, did you check the New York Times, or did you check the Wall Street Journal, or did you check current relevant data? Yeah. Like if I'm not sure if that's the right answer, then I'll ask them, where'd you get your data from? Yes. It'll tell you. Yes. It's crazy good. AI is a wonderful thing if it's used properly. I think,
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
I would say also that diet is one component, or lifestyle, the way we eat, but exercise and rest. And stress management are the other three pillars of good health.
Right. Well, you said earlier, you said something really profound. You said, listen to your body. It's speaking to you, right?
Yeah.
So it's telling you what it needs.
Yeah.
Right? You need more of something if you're lethargic or tired, or there's something that could be missing in your diet. So, yeah.
Yeah,
or movement, maybe a lack of movement, even.
Yes, they say that sedentary. I sometimes sit 8-10 hours a day, and they say that it's equivalent to a pack of cigarettes in terms of the negative impact on our health. Pack of cigarettes a day. So our bodies were not meant to be C-shaped like I am right now.
Yeah.
Right. Our bodies were meant to move and to stretch and to walk and. So there's a myriad of things that we now know can be done. But back in the day, 20 years ago, when I first began this journey, for sure doctors would say, no, look, this solution is going to come in the form of pills or not at all. And now when they examine me, which again, I will once again confirm that I do meet with doctors and have regular tests and so on, they say, look, they're excited about the results, and I ask them sometimes. I've asked my doctors, do you not have other patients that do this? And usually the answer is, my patients aren't disciplined enough to even take the pills that I give them, much less do what you do, which used to be surprising to me, but now it is not, because sometimes people will ask me, what do I need to do to get better from this, condition that I have? If sometimes I'll come across somebody that has inflammatory bowel disease, and I tell them, look, this is the protocol. And they're like, oh man, I need my beer and my burgers.
Yeah.
And I understand and I respect that. People have to make choices, and I think we all have to weigh the pros and cons of each thing. This works for me, but not necessarily for everyone.
Well, there are some easy ways to fix some of this stuff. Is like, don't buy chips, don't buy ice cream.
Yeah.
If you want a treat, go buy one. Because it'll take you to get off your couch to go to Dairy Queen and get an ice cream.
Yeah.
So trying not to buy snacks, not to buy ice cream, buying your fruit fresh, buying more organic stuff.
Yes.
And I know everything is more expensive, so I respect that.
Yes.
That for some people it's more expensive to buy organic, but where you can, where the important things are, you can buy organic.
Yeah, that's key. Those strategies in the home are really good, Tracy.
I have to.
Because, getting up and going to the store to get your, if you feel like a bag of chips is going to happen less frequently than if you always have them available. If you make it part of your grocery trip every week, then you're guaranteeing that you're going to rely on it every night, or the tub of ice cream, or whatever it may be.
Has anybody ever stopped you in the grocery store and said, "Well, like what's on your?"
All the time.
Yeah.
With fruits and bananas and things, I tell the cashier usually that I have a monkey at home. It's my go-to.
It's like I just get the big basket of bananas, right?
Yeah. People look at my cart funny sometimes.
I look at their cart funny though.
Yeah.
I'm like, look how many bags of chips they've got on there, and look at the pop, and so I do the same thing because I'm thinking to myself, that's a lot of junk food or processed, like a lot of TV dinners or things in packages. Like I rarely ever go to the outside of the store in terms of the frozen, like it's just not how we shop.
Yeah, it does require some discipline and some planning. I certainly, I don't want to look down on those that follow this SAD diet and they're quite happy with it. I hopefully would just make them curious towards alternatives. But if it's not for you, then keep doing what works. And every once in a while I'll hear somebody say, well, my grandmother used to eat hot dogs every day and drink a glass of scotch every day.
And smoke a pack of cigarettes,
And she made it and so on. That's true. And those tend to be exceptions and not the rule. Some of us are born with a better genetic makeup, and so it allows us to do that. I wasn't that fortunate, so I have to work a little harder at it, and I don't mind doing it. So I just hope that this is encouraging to people and doesn't come down as a judgment on people who choose to do it differently, because we're all learning, we're all journeying through life, trying to figure it out.
Right. I guess if they are looking for health alternatives, this can be helpful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, let's just do our rapid fire because we have had a long podcast today, but it's been very good. Biggest plant-based myth.
Okay, so we covered the biggest one, which is the protein one. Anemia, let's go with that.
Yes.
Can't get enough iron. So I've never supplemented iron. I have normal levels of iron. And with the bowel condition that I have, people with this condition are known to not absorb all the nutrients in an optimal fashion. So I don't know to what degree I have, good absorption. But I would say that you can absolutely get iron. Just add a little citrus to your green vegetables, your kale, your spinach, and some of these things, and it increases the absorption of non-heme iron, as it is known. You do not need meat. You do not need supplements, which can be quite hard on the stomach, for iron. So let's not
that's
super
a good one.
not very rapid fire answer.
Well,
Sorry, Tracy.
it never is. I remember the last time. Most underrated plant-based food.
Fruit. Fruit. Fruit has such a bad rap.
Lots of the podcasts I've been listening to lately, like there's a couple on Diary of a CEO where they have been telling people just don't even eat fruit. Like just take it out of your diet. Take it out of your diet. I'm like, whoa.
I would respectfully disagree. And I think our universe has enough space for different perspectives, but I will say fruit.
Go-to comfort meal. And you can't say your shake.
Okay. Comfort meal would be, if a treat would be a Mediterranean buffet with all kinds of plant-based, foods. A treat at home, some falafel with some hummus. There's more, but like a couple of dates, very sweet, very satisfying.
Well, I'm making a red lentil Thai curry dinner tonight, so it's going to be good.
So do you use coconut milk for that, or do
you use? I do.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
And so some of it I'm not totally vegetarian on. I'll eat eggs. And coconut milk for sure.
I cook with coconut milk.
Yeah.
It's, again, on the higher fat, so I need to be aware of that for my fat sort of balance. But it's very tasty, and we often cook with it. Yeah.
Definitely. Hardest situation to stay plant-based? I guess this is like social setting, I would think.
Yeah, the social setting I've mastered. It's actually the social aspect, not the eating aspect. So another thing I haven't really mentioned much about is the fasting. So fasting is one of the most health promoting things you can do if you have a condition and you need to heal and give your body rest.
Right.
And I want to be careful for anybody that might have an eating disorder. I'm not encouraging people undereat, because if you need to know how to fast, you need to go into it properly and come out of it properly and do it with some supervision. But so if I'm at a party and there's absolutely nothing available for me, I'm totally fine.
You can fast.
I can fast. I can enjoy people's company, and I can go home to a nice meal, or I can pre-eat. And so I deal with that fine. It's the social aspect of people seeing me not eating or eating less or only eating, from the vegetable tray or whatnot.
Right.
That's the challenge: is how do I encourage and comfort the stress and anxiety of other people who sometimes, feel for me for not having chips and pizza or whatever they're having.
Think about the alcoholic that stops drinking and is in a social setting and doesn't want doesn't want a beer or doesn't want to, and people are almost awkward around it. Like, whoa, he's weird, right?
Same idea.
So crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is actually the bigger challenge rather than the food management piece.
Good to know. Thank you. Favorite cuisine to eat plant-based?
So I mentioned the Mediterranean. I would say Indian.
Me too.
Indian
I was just
food.
going to say that's Indian,
Love
Thai.
all those spices and all of that. Just have to make sure that the dishes I'm eating do not have the dairy. But yeah, we enjoy that.
Good. One word to describe your lifestyle now.
Blessed. Because we've been talking about what I can do to control the outcome, Tracy. But so much of what happens to us comes from the outside. Comes from above, comes from things that were just, look, I was lucky to have the parents that I did, lucky to meet the woman that I married, fortunate to have the children that I have, fortunate to meet somebody like you a couple of months ago and connect with you on this level, right? All of those things I did not conjure up, I did not plan, I did not have those in my food diary.
Right.
So that's why I say blessed.
Well, no one would plan to have cancer, Crohn's, or any of that stuff. Like what you've been through is amazing, but also like your commitment. Like I understand what the doctors told you. Like I don't know too many people that are that committed to like their big why, even if it is a health journey, even if they're diabetic, they are not committed at the way that you are. And you are a special beast. And I want to say that you're amazing and thank you, because you may have even helped somebody do 10% more. And that's really what this is all about, is like, how can I do 10% more than I'm doing right now? Right?
Yeah,
So,
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you're listening and you've ever been curious about going plant-based, even just starting small, this is your sign to explore. We'll drop all of Tiago's info in the show notes. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Tiago.
Thank you.